Welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson, a.k.a. Uncle Tex, a.k.a. Professor Tex. Before we get started, smash that like button, subscribe to the page, share with a friend. Got any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below, and we'll chat with it, which is actually what I'm going to actually do today, and whatnot. We're going to jump right into this. There was a time in sports, as a kid coming up, in the 70s, 80s, and then being a young man in his 20s and whatnot in the 90s, where a team that won, whether you like them or not, they won. For me, in the 70s, it was the Steelers. They beat my Cowboys twice in Super Bowl 10 and in Super Bowl 12. They were going to beat the Rams as well, and they would beat the Vikings in the Super Bowl 9, if I'm not mistaken, and beat the Rams, I think, in Super Bowl 13. And they did 4 and 6 years and whatnot. If you go back to let's go back to the 40s. It was all about the Chicago Bears, monsters of the Midway. 50s, it was about the Cleveland Browns. 60s, obviously, it was about the Green Bay Packers. 70s, Steelers, as I talked about. 80s, it was all about the 49ers. 90s, it was all about that of the Cowboys. You got the 2000s, it was the Pats for shit for over a decade, right? Right now, and from the mid 2000s or whatever, how you want to look at it or whatever, 2018 to 2023, 24, however you want, 2023 or whatever like that, you got the Pats. And it's a lot of other teams in between it, obviously. You had the Detroit Lions back in the 50s and whatnot. You had the Redskins back in the 30s, 40s and whatnot. You had Baltimore Colts and a lot of other different teams. You had the Oakland Raiders in the 70s who had the best record of any team in the 70s. But they couldn't get past the Steelers, and they finally did to go on to win Super Bowl 10. The other teams just good. We go back and follow basketball, all about Magic Johnson and 80s and whatnot and stuff like that with him and Jordan and all them guys and like that. Golden State now. LeBron has won 4 with a couple of different teams and whatnot. And that was that. But if we go back to them times that I'm talking about, one of the most interesting things that I see about today is that those teams are just good. You had the dominating Yankees. You had, I'm not a hockey guy. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Edmonton Oilers with Wayne Gretzky and all them guys like that and whatnot. You had Cincinnati Reds at the 70s, Big Red Machine. You had the Oakland A's. You had a lot of different teams like that, right? So I'm saying all that to say is that once we look at these situations here, and those teams are just good. They were good, talent, well coached, everything. Some of them didn't have the greatest of players, but they had a great coaching, and they ran a system, and they did what they did. Okay? And you could hate them and all of that shit if you wanted to. That's fine. You had every right to hate them. That's not your team or whatever. And that was that. In comes the millennium, the millennials, 2000. Now, you're talking to a cat who I've read a lot of conspiracy books. I've taught about conspiracies. And conspiracies, in a lot of cases, are true. But I'm not going to say so much in sports because sports is entertainment. But this is what I would say. Back during that time, 70s, 80s, 90s, and stuff like that, the teams, if you were good, you was just good. I remember Greg Townsend, if I'm not mistaken. He was a defensive tackle, pretty good defensive tackle. Might have been an end, but I think it was a tackle, defensive tackle and whatnot. For that of the Raiders, LA Raiders. And he was so pissed off and mad that Buffalo kept representing the AFC in the Super Bowl and kept losing and whatnot, but they got to the Super Bowl. Nonetheless, they lost. But they got there. They beat all the AFC teams that they needed to beat to get there. I have noticed when you win over 3 Super Bowls, now, since the 2000s, it's a conspiracy. Now I had a guy from the last joint I made when I was talking about Mahomes. If he does 3-peat or whatever, him and the Chiefs, it's a wrap. Okay. He has diarrhea at the fingertips. He made a lot of valid points. Not going to front. He talked about the yards Brady had, this, that, and the other, and stuff like that. Fine. Have no problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. And whatnot. But when he started going off on a rant about the Swifties, talking about Taylor Swift, and all that, and then I've seen the different memes on Twitter with Mahomes kissing a referee and all that kind of stuff like that. Mahomes was beloved until he just won that third one. So why all of a sudden is it a problem? See, if you balling, I got no problem with you. I can't say anything. See, I'm a football guy first and foremost before I'm a homer. All right? I'm a football guy before a lot of guys are homers. You could tell a guy's a homer about the first 15 seconds that you're talking to him about the sport. They're either talking to, because when I say homer, this is a guy who will sit up there and think that every fucking player that played on their team, if they won a championship, belongs in the Hall of Fame and don't even have the fucking numbers. The Jim Plunkett rule, as I call it. He won 2 Super Bowls. Go look up his record and look up what he did. Come on. But again, if you want to put him in there, put him in there, because that's what they started doing when they did the 100th year anniversary, putting everybody in there because their asses is lazy. I've made several comments about this. I have made several shows about this. Right? And even Deion Sanders was like, to be a hall of, you got guys up here and then you got guys down here. But in the end, they all of their bust, because I went there in 2012, I want to say. Went to Canton, Ohio, went to the Hall of Fame. Childhood a thing of mine. My wife at the time and whatnot, she made that happen and whatnot. Shout out to her. And so that was what that was. Now, what happens, you can't call it saying the Swifties, he went to Swifties and then he went into did all this kind of stuff. So what I ended up doing is, because you can project all you want, but that really doesn't matter much. And I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter much. It doesn't matter much because in the end, when we start speaking about this type of stuff, let's do this here. Let's go and deal with the first 96 games of seven seasons, which is really 6 seasons. Because Mahomes played 1 game, Brady played a series in their rookie year. So we can say, so the numbers, I tell you guys all the time, what I tell you guys all the time at the end of the podcast. I tell you guys, there's no greatest of all time, as long as time is still going on. And that numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. So, that numbers is right there. Now see, I thought I actually did this once, but I did this based upon the fact of what that guy, it was the last chance you, about a bunch of football players who had problems and they go over there with this coach. So this coach last year, cigar smoking guy, I can give him props for that because I love the sticks and whatnot, said that Patrick Mahomes couldn't hold John Elway's jockstrap. Well, as a Texan, I beg to differ, and I showed it. Now, whether he saw it or not, but I'm sure somebody that watches his shows and follows him on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called nowadays, he knows about that. And I did their first 6 or 7 years. Now, to me, and I'll dare anybody to put it down there, if they like, I said, if you go back and look at John Elway was a far superior passer, far superior athlete than Tom Brady was. This man went to 5 Super Bowls. He's 2-3 in Super Bowls. But he had inferior coaching as far as Dan Reeves choked in the big games. And in some cases, so did Elway. There was really only in 1 Super Bowl. we can say two when it comes to the Giants, when it comes to that of the Redskins. But for the most part, they got their asses blown out. They got their asses handed to them. This is back when the time when the AFC coming from the Steelers and whatnot, who dominated in the 70s, when the AFC just had the NFC's number, no matter what. So what I end up doing is I end up looking this up. 96 games. And here it is. 74-22 Holmes, 70-24. Quarterback record, which I don't really like. That's a coaching record, but that's neither here nor there. Completion ratio, you see that. Passing yards, almost average damn near 80 yards more. 0.9 more over here. The yards, again, here we go with the damn yards again. I'm like, dude, this was like, what are we talking about? It's almost 300 yards. He's averaging. That Mahomes is averaging. 147 passes. He has 219. 78 picks, 63. 88.5 quarterback rating, 103.5. 239 rushing yards, 374. 434 yards, rushing yards, 1,936. Dude, that's an all-pro season, even though that's an accumulation of 7 years. But look at the average, man. Come on, dude. Look at the fuck it. We got number time. Your boy off today, so he having a good time and shit like that. So let's go ahead and do this. 1,936 yards off of 374 carries. That's a 5.17, almost a 5.2 average, as opposed to 239 and the 435. That's 0.54 yards per carry. That's just an extra nugget for jokers. So we go to rushing yards. I got here 5.2, 1.8. 3 rushing touchdowns, he has 12. Fan PT, I have no idea what that is, but it damn near doubles him. Awards and honors. 3 rings. 3 rings. Put them over there because the first 7 years, they've already solidified themselves. In 7 years, they've already solidified, which is basically 6. They've already solidified themselves as a first ballot Hall of Famer. You win 3, you're first ballot Hall of Famer. Game's over with. Let's put that over here in the box over here. We're dealing with strictly numbers and playing the position and accolades that come along with that. Okay? 3 rings. 3 Pro Bowls, 6. Pro Bowl ain't shit nowadays. Brady didn't play in the Pro Bowl. Last Pro Bowl Brady played in was 2009. Plus, they played the Pro Bowl before, so a lot of guys don't play in the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl, when I was coming up, and up until around 2011 or 12 or whatever, the shit's played after. Okay? Now they play fucking PE. Now it's PE that's being played. They play PE. Okay. 8 Associated Press MVP, 2 times. Brady got done. Now, if you want to throw the one in that we get the next year, 2007, when they went 18-0. Okay. AP Offensive Player of the Year, Mahomes got 1. That's something that my man at that time he's never got. He may have gotten it later, but the first 7 years, I say Mahomes got to get 1. 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Now what? Now to my man's point, because he made a lot of valid points. But the points that he made are based upon the fact that Mahomes is 28 years old. He still has another 10 years in the league. Brady's done. Brady's getting ready to be in the booth whenever, I don't know if it's this year or next year, whenever he's getting ready to be in the booth. So it's done. This is why when the last broadcast that I made, I was saying that, well, with Brady, he won't ever be able to have another 3-peat. Right now, Mahomes is sitting at a point right now where he can possibly have a 3-peat and still have an opportunity to win 7. If we're talking about Gay, If we're talking about losing both your best tackles, your linemen, because you got to have tackles in this league. Against Tampa, he don't lose them. That goddamn game is a completely different game. He's running for his life the whole game. And then the collapse of the second half, not playing their best ball against Cincinnati. You're looking at somebody who could have possibly be 5-0 already and only 28 years old. Put that in perspective. Now it's a conspiracy. Anytime you have won over 3 Super Bowls, 3 championships in today's world, it's a fucking conspiracy. Even I played into it at one time in my life when the Pats won. Oh, the Pats winning because of 9/11. It's patriotic. It's Pats. Right, you get it? See what I'm saying? They did this. The Tuck rule. Everybody know that was a fucking fumble. In any other NFL game, that's a fucking fumble. We all know that. Raiders win that game. We may not even be talking about this situation. Okay? But we're talking about it. Yo, having said that, when we get into that, Brady and the Pats and what they did. Oh, he's 2-0. He beat him in playoff game 2-0, and he beat him in There is never a time. This is not high school. Let me remind you, this is not high school. This is not high school. Meaning that you don't have a quarterback playing fucking cornerback and going 2 ways. It's not at a fucking 3A school or a 2A school where the quarterback went both ways. They're never on the field at the same time unless it's pregame. So get that bullshit out your fucking head with the fucking QB or the quarterback record, which is a bunch of bullshit. But for the sake of arguing, we'll deal with it. Now, Brady plays against the Chiefs defense. Mahomes plays against the Pats or the Bucks defense. They don't play tennis. Football is the ultimate team sport, as we should know that by now. For all you football lovers, y'all, we know that by now. Ultimate team sport. Right? We go back over here. Mahomes. I've already named all. Look at all this. Look at all this. First ballot Hall of Famer. In just first 7 years. Same thing with Brady. Same thing with Brady. But I said remove all of that because we already got that. Come back to over here. Come back to over here. This says it all right here. He won more games. They played in 96 games. It's kind of funny because it's like they didn't start or really play their first year as rookies. They played their second year. Mahomes has a good another 10 years left, which would put him at around 38, 39 years old. The point I'm making, so my man started talking about, well, the Swifties. Let's get this straight. Travis Kelce, again, another one of those, because your first two best tight ends come from Kansas City. Y'all talk that shit about Gronk all you want. The numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. I already put up the numbers. I think I've already done a thing on that. We already know about that. Yeah, Gronk had this. I said, but look at what Kelce, the numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. Kelce's still playing. Gronk started being injury prone, left the game, and then came back. Kelce is still like the fucking Energizer Bunny. Let's get that straight. Kelce won 2 Super Bowls before he started fucking Taylor Swift or Swifties. So he didn't need Swifties to solidify himself. We already knew he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So let's dismiss that shit. We're not going to talk. Oh, can we talk about Deflategate? Can we talk about the illegal filming? But like like Prime said, still got to play the game. No matter what, you still got to play. Still got to play. So, based upon what Mahomes has done his first 7 years, and if he keeps that for another 7, that would give him 14 years as a starter. And if we just go with the average of what he's averaging, say he averages and does the same exact fucking thing that he did his first 7 years starting, his record, and we just playing around with this, right? If he wins another 74, that puts him at 148 games won in the next fucking 7 years. 148, clear it. Seven, 74, 22 plus 22. What was it? 100 and something and 44 losses. Got to give him a couple of more Super Bowl wins, and that would give him 6 wins, a couple of other MVPs, and probably around 4 or 5 All-Pro first team nods, and a couple of more MVPs. That's in 7 years. That's not even in 10. That's at age 36, 37. The point that I'm making is that what I'm telling the fella that had diarrhea at the keyboard, oh, he ain't gonna go 18-0. See, Brady went 18-0. They did this. He didn't come into it. It is still, the jury is still out because Brady is done playing. Mahomes isn't. So my point that I was making in that last video was the fact that Mahomes has a chance to obliterate shit by year 15, 16 as a starter, where it took Brady 22 years to do it. That is my point. Andy Reid has always been a great coach, in my opinion. But he hung around, and he hangs around now. He hung around because he finally got the guy that motherfucker gets me. A lot of them other guys, it was all right, whether it was Donovan, whether it was Alex Smith, got me, and even when he was coaching Brett Favre and stuff like that, this, that, and the other, as a quarterback coach or offensive coordinator, whatever case it may have been, and the different guys he did with the 49ers. This guy, as a head coach, that's my guy. That's my guy right there. That's my guy. Just like Belichick and Brady came together at the perfect storm. They both had something to prove. People forget, Belichick was the mastermind of those big blue defenses that won championships for the Giants. 87 and 91. Let's not forget that shit. Cleveland fucked over him. Art Modell and all of that fucking hot mess that had going on over there. That's what ruined him as that of a coach, where people don't want to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that shit. But let's talk about it. Well, I ain't going to even talk about it because we already know that. So I am saying, from the projection aspect of, you don't know whether he'll never be 20-some odd points. His first years, going into the second year 2019 season, and that run that he had when he came from behind and whooped all those fucking guys' asses over there back in 2019, I suppose. When was that? Let's go back to, let's go here. 2019. This one 11-3. Came from behind with the Houston Texans. Conference championship game came from behind Tennessee Titans. Then they beat the 49ers 31-20 by 11. Now, what you going to say about that? Come from behind victory, doing that run before halftime was absolutely exquisite. So in saying all of that, and in showing these things like his first 7 seasons, the numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. We go for the record. Go for before 30, 5,001. It says it all right here. He's doubled that. Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? If you are a Brady fan and a Pats fan, that's fine. I got no problem with that. But I'm the type of cat that when I deal with football, I look at how football is played. I'm not a fucking homer. I've went through a bunch of Dallas years of lean years of them just playing horrible fucking football or having a decent team and just get out-coached and outplayed with the Romo and T.O. teams and shit like that. I've went through all of that. I've went through the Danny White's fucking goddamn 3 NFC championships in a row and laid an egg in every fucking one of them. I went through, there was no Drew Pearson. I went through all that as a kid. Going into that of a teenager in high school. I went through all that. I went through watching Eric Dickerson run through motherfucking Michael Downs like he was a goddamn piece of plastic. I went through all that. So, as a fan, motherfuckers just play better ball, man. You the better man on the goddamn team. You the better man. You the better team. You the better team. So, this conspiracy, so now everything is a fucking conspiracy theory after you went through. Now Mahomes is literally hated, just like Brady was. Just like Brady was. Now he's hated. Hated why? Because he's winning. That's what he's supposed to do. Give the props up. Stop the conspiracy theory shit. I don't want to hear nothing about the fucking Swifties. This guy who left the comments, knowledgeable cat. I could tell that. But he also is a fucking homer. How are you going to say stupid shit like that? Oh, Philadelphia. Hey, Philadelphia. That guy wasn't holding. He grabbed him twice. He grabbed him twice. You grab a handful of jersey, motherfucker, that's holding. Call it what the fuck you want to call it. That's holding, homie. Can't do anything about it. Is Brady the greatest quarterback that ever played in the first 105 years of the NFL? He got that, man. I'm not going to live a front on that. He got that. He got the championship to show that. Now, I can nitpick and be like, well, what about Arthur Graham? 10 years he played. 10 years he's in the championship game. He's 7-3 in championship games. Now, people ain't gonna count that because of Super Bowl era, and that he played in the All-American Football Conference, and that won't count because it's not the NFL, because that was the AAFC. However, I say, well, if that's the case, then take his yards and shit out. But you can't. You won't. So you want your cake and eat it too. Just like you won't take Lance Allworth's yards as a wide receiver with the AFL. If you take his AFL years out, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. He was a wide receiver on his last leg when he went to Dallas and got a ring. But you put his in, just like him and Ron Mix. Okay? First AFL player to be inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of the first greatest tackles to come from out of USC during the late 50s, early 60s. So, in closing, we're going to play fair. Let's play fair. Okay? Let's play fair. Let's go ahead and play fair. If Mahomes keep up the pace that he has, he can easily do 3 in a row. That's why he's focused right now. He can do 3 in a row and also have the time to actually win 7 to 8 championships. Even if he doesn't, and he still plays and he never wins another goddamn Super Bowl, if the Chiefs and him go 3-peat, that's something Brady never did. And he still has the opportunity to he has an opportunity to still be able to sit up there and go 17-0 and finish it off at 20-0. That's the scary part. So, in saying all that, as I've said countless of times before and whatnot, as I said last broadcast, what's stopping them? And they have an opportunity to do that, which is why Andy Reid, who can quit coaching, and say no, he finally got what he wanted. Finally, he's been looking for that diamond in the rough. He's been close. He got it. He ain't going no motherfucking where. He ain't going nowhere. He's having too much fun. And he know he can make history. He's already another first. So you already, from that team, have an offensive-minded coach. Because when they get in the goddamn red zone, it's lights out, baby. It's over with. You already have Andy Reid's the first ballot Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes the first ballot Hall of Famer. Travis Kelce is first ballot Hall of Famer. We all know Gonzo, first ballot Hall of Famer. And watch Chris Jones on the defensive side. Okay? So you're looking at a possibility from those teams over the past 5 years. You have at least, possibly, we know for sure 3 and a possible 4. 2 players and 1 coach. And possibly if Chris Jones put up another 2 or 3 years doing what he's been doing, you're looking at 4 Hall of Famers. Easily from that dynasty. So can we stop with so now every time you went 2 is fine. 3, we go on conspiracy theory. There's no conspiracy theory. There's just a bunch of ass whipping that's going on in that motherfucking goddamn on that field when it gets right down to it. So let's cut the games. Let's stop it. Give that man his props, what he belongs and what he's supposed to have, and what he's done, and what that team has done. Whether you're a homer or not, you got to acknowledge what has been done in the since 2018. You got to acknowledge that. And you're looking at somebody that could possibly, within a few fluke things here and there, they could easily be 5-0 already and he'd be 28 years old. I've told you guys before, and I just said it about talking about John Elway. Watch John Elway's high school highlights. I watched this motherfucker throw a 60-yard rope as a high schooler, 18-year-old high schooler. Throw a fucking frozen rope to a motherfucking end zone. Like it was nothing. Flat-footed. He's rolling out, squares up, and he tosses this motherfucker a straight bullet. Now I put, because of that coach of, who said my man couldn't hold his job, put him up years and years. It's not even close, man. With Mahomes. And Elway is a far better, superior quarterback playing the position, than Brady could ever be. I told you guys I'd pick about 10 or 15 quarterbacks I pick before Brady. But Brady has the mindset. Him and Belichick had something to prove, which is why they succeeded and why they won. The quarterback and coach were like this when it came down to goddamn playing that motherfucking game, man. They had something to prove. And you got to know what you're doing, obviously, and be decent in what you're doing. I got something to prove. Both of them had something to prove. That's why they clicked for 20 fucking years. And now Andy Reid and Mahomes are clicking. You think Andy Reid's going to go somewhere else? Or go retire? He got he got what he's been looking for, what he's been dreaming for years. Like I tell you guys all the time, there's no GOAT, there's no greatest of all time as long as time is still going on. And like I tell you, numbers don't lie and get emotional, people do. I'm going to be back I'll come back in a few. And I'm going to break down, because I saw this actually on Twitter, with Chuck Foreman, very good back of the 70s, who thinks a lot of people from Minnesota and other homers think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. 8 years of playing 3,000-yard seasons, one All-Pro, five Pro Bowls, and whatnot. He was Roger Craig before Roger Craig. Ironically enough, they both only had 3,000-yard seasons. Craig had 11 seasons. Old boy had 8. Snowball hit old boy in the eye. I think that hindered him. He got hurt a couple of times and whatnot, and ended up finishing up with the Pats. But and I explained to him why he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame based upon the backs of the 70s and how he just really didn't measure up to them. You guys have a good one, and we'll talk to you later.